Yo guys, what's up and welcome to another tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how Wheezy makes crazy ethnic samples in the style of Gunna Young Thug. So first of all, I'm going to show you all the sample, then after that I will show you how I mixed it, then after that I will show you how I mastered it and how I processed it afterwards. And as you can see, I have a new microphone. I really hope you all enjoy it, and I really hope you all like the sound quality. And if you all haven't checked out my newest kit, make sure to do that right now. It's Bedroom Essentials Volume 1. It will be a series of kits, and with the code lukadidthis, the code will be on the screen right now, you'll get a 15% discount at checkout. Plus you can send back samples and beats to me so I can send them out for placements as well. So don't miss out on that. And thank you for this crazy support on each platform. Make sure to subscribe, make sure to leave a like and to comment something cool. And yeah guys, let's go. And by the way, the sample has two parts, so if you want to hear the other part, make sure to stay till the end and make sure to leave a like, as I said, and let's get into it. So for the first thing, I use Session Horns Pro, and I use the 5-piece preset, and I basically just laid down this pattern, which is basically just a D sharp minor chord right here, and then I just used the F sharp and pitched it up by 1 octave, and then I just had these filler chords, I would say, which is a D sharp minor chord again, and an F minor chord, I'm not very sure though, then just copied it over, and then I just copied some notes and pasted them 1 octave down to give the whole trumpet or brass more of a full feeling and more of a full sound. I didn't even randomize the velocities, and the finished brass pattern is sounded like this. And for the effects on this trumpet or brass pattern, I basically just used this Flute parametric EQ2, where I EQ'd out some frequencies that I didn't really like. And by the way, you can find this mixing chain in the Bedroom Essentials Volume 1 as well. So there's FX chains, samples, starters, and some texture loops. Then after that, I had this RC20 just for the wobble and the EQ. Then this Valhalla Vintage Verb, where I tweaked the mix and the decay. Then this Soothe on its default settings and the knob turned to 2.0. This EQ, where I just cut out a lot of the lows because I think it had too much low end, so I basically just cut it out. And I had a 27% in stereo. Then for the next thing, I used the Irish flute from the Contact Factory library, and I didn't tweak it at all, and I laid down this pretty simple pattern. As y'all can see, it's basically just triplet notes because I heard Wheezy using that a lot, and then I just copied it over here, removed the first 3 notes, and then just left it how it was. I basically just randomized the velocity to make it sound more realistic, and this is how the finished pattern is sounding like. Then for the effects on this flute, I had this RC20, where I just had it for the wobble and the EQ again. Then this Valhalla Vintage Verb, where I tweaked the mix and the decay. Then this Flute parametric EQ, where I took out some frequencies that I didn't really like or that weren't really necessary for the whole sample. Then this simple Soothe that I had on the same settings as I had it on the trumpet. Then this EQ, where I cut out a lot of the lows again, and I had it 27% in stereo again. Then for the next thing, I used this Cymatics Blast Vocal Chop Loop, which was at 72 BPM and in C minor, so I just brought it into key by pitching up by 3. And I just brought it into time, and then after that I put the mod on stretch and put the pitch range to 12 and pitched it up by 1 whole octave. I put the declicker mod on generic, and this is how the finished vocal loop is sounding like. Then for the effects on these vocals, I had this Flute parametric EQ, where I cut out a lot of the low mids and a lot of the highs, just to duck it more to the background and make it sound more vintage. Then this simple EQ, where I took out a lot of the frequencies that I didn't like, but at the end it sounded fire, so that's what matters. And yeah, as you can see, I took out 7.9 dB, then right here again, and right there I took out 9.8 decibels. So it's a lot, but it really sounded good at the end, and that's what matters, as I said. Then I had this simple reverb, where I tweaked the decay, the wet, and the stereo separation knob. And then this simple Soothe on its hard setting, where I had the knob to 3.0, and this FX chain is in the kit as well. It's basically all stock plugins besides Soothe, but that's a plugin that's really worth getting. Then for the next thing, I used my own perk loop, which was at 147 BPM, but I have my perk loops like that when you drag them in, that they are already on time, so you don't have to do anything. And I basically just pitched it up by 12, put the declicker mode on generic and the mode on stretch, and this is how the finished perk loop is sounding like. Then for the effects on this perk loop, I had this fully parametric EQ where I ducked some of the lows and some of the highs, just to basically make it sound more vintage. Then this EQ where I EQ'd everything besides some of the mids out, just to duck it more to the background. Then this simple soothe where the knob was to 9.2 and I put it on the hard setting. Then for the last thing on this effects chain, I had this simple fruity reverb, which was on its default settings, but I turned the mix to 35%. Then for the next thing, I used the Orchestra Complete from Sonoscore, and I used the 07 Violins to Tremolo preset, and I just laid down this simple pattern. I randomized the velocities, and it's just some simple chords. As you can see, I just took away the middle notes and pasted the root notes up, and then just had this A sharp right here and the G sharp right there, and the finished string pattern and the finished violin pattern is sounding like this. And then for the effects on this violin, I basically just had this simple EQ where I took away some of the high mid frequencies, and then this EQ where I cut out a lot of the lows and ducked some of the highs. Then after that I just rendered it out. The mode on stretch, the declick mode on generic, because it wasn't really in time, so I just pressed shift and the mouse wheel, so you can basically just shift it where you want it, and I just brought it into time and it just sounds the same. And now let's go on to the next thing. Then for the next thing I had this bass which is named Ferno, and I basically just laid down this pretty simple bass line. It follows the root notes from the trumpets, or like from the brass, and the finished bass line is sounding like this. Then for the effect chain on this bass, which is also my kit, I had this simple soothe on its hard setting and the knob to 10.4. I know it's a lot, but for the low frequencies I have the feeling that it doesn't cut out as much as like for the high frequencies. Then I had this R compressor from Waves, which I tweaked individually for this bass line. Then this simple decapitator with these settings, this fully fast distortion on its default settings, but I had the mix to 35%. This simple EQ just to cut out some of the muddy lows, and I turned it 100% in mono. Then for the mastering chain, I had this Gunna can opener with these settings, then this R compressor with these settings. It's basically just to compress the sample a bit, just to like glue together, I would say. Then I had this Gunna's wall control with these settings, this RC20 just for the distortion and the magnetic, and the EQ just to make it sound a bit more vintage. Then I had this L1 limiter stereo from Waves just to make the sample way louder. Then these two EQs, which I just left off to be fair, but I tweaked it like this. And then this sound shifter pitch stereo from Waves just to pitch it down, or like see in which pitch you like the sample the best. And I pitch it down by 2. And first of all, this is a sample without the mastering chain. And then for the processing after I added the mastering chain, yeah, we'll heal sampled in a sec. I just added this EQ where I took out some of the high mids again. Then I just pitched it up by 2 again with the sound shifter pitch stereo from Waves again, because I don't know, I just felt like it, I guess. And I cut out some of the muddy lows, and the finished sample is sounding like this. So yeah guys, if you all enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like and to subscribe to my channel, and please make sure to leave a cool comment. It would really mean a lot. You can either just write how you like this video, or just leave some future video suggestions for some future videos that I can use. And if you haven't, please make sure to activate the bell so you'll get a notification every time I stream or upload. And as I said, thank you all for this crazy support. Make sure to check out Bedroom Essentials Volume 1, and yeah guys, see y'all.